Hello everybody, this is Neka and you are on Rap to Soul Music. Be inspired.
You talked about change. The region where you're from, that's known for the petrol and the oil that is being produced there, but it's usually that European people benefit from all the resources that are there. Do you feel as though that has changed over the years because you've seen you've moved back, so you went to Germany and you came back. Have you seen any change as far as that goes?
Well, the Niger Delta issue is a constant. It won't change with immediate effect.
Okay, so it's pretty stagnant and it's not...
I wouldn't say it's stagnant. There's some NGOs or some people who are making the attempt of improving the environment. I can only talk about the groundwork. Ever since I had this NGO, I've seen the effort of the root, made from the root. People always look at the effort made from the political level up, downwards. And I think that's the wrongest way to approach change that you want to see. Change has to come from within, and it also starts with the minds of civilians. We Nigerians were very, not Nigerians alone, people in the world, we like to blame. We always like to blame. It's somebody else that always has the fault and has to solve the problem. We've never stopped to think, okay, maybe we ourselves are the problem. Our mentality is the problem. The way we were born or the way we were forced to believe or put in a system where we're forced to think in a certain way that will only benefit the system alone and just have us work as, more or less as robots or slaves to the system. So it's about us breaking free from that, colonial or that mentality that we have, and seeing our own individual responsibility and working together with political leaders that we vote for.
Do you feel as though maybe a lot of people know or are aware, but they just don't want to deal with it because it's too complicated or it's too exhausting? Because people know if you buy this and that, it will affect that, or if you do this and that, it could affect the other person. But the thought of it is so hard, and maybe there's no idea of what is the solution, so they turn into, let me just put that in a box and close the box again because it's too much for me to handle. Do you feel as though that might be the case, especially in the Western world, that they close their eyes?
It could be. There's some people that are just, they're not necessarily concerned about those kind of things, and you can't really blame anybody, to be honest with you,
But yourself.
At the end of the day, there's always a plus and there's a minus and there's a good and there's a bad, there's a beautiful and there's an ugly. So
you also
those people have to be for us to be.
Oh, yeah, I agree. You earlier talked about that there's been a change for the position of women in Nigeria and minorities in general. Right now in Germany or in Europe, they're discussing same-sex marriage. Nigeria is one of the only countries in the world where there's a death penalty, at least in North Nigeria, on same sexual behavior. What is your stance on it, and how do you feel about the whole situation?
I'm not going to comment on that.
Okay. Then you grew up in Nigeria. You have a German mother and a Nigerian father, and this concert is against discrimination and stuff. Have you faced being singled out because you have a white mother, or because you are a half caste or a mixed person? I myself also am a mixed person. I grew up in a country where it was more so white people, and you have the opposite. Did you feel that growing up?
No.
So they don't even differentiate in Nigeria?
No, I didn't have that when I was growing up. No. Okay. It was only when I traveled to Germany that I understood that I'm different, or I have.
Well, that's quite fascinating. It's interesting that here people are so aware of racial or of visual differences.
You want to be, if you feel different, then you will be treated different.
Also, you think it's also...
It also has to do with your mind.
Okay. Well,
there's some people that also attract racism.
I agree, true, because my father he's a Nigerian barber, and many African people come to his place, and a lot of people complain about not being perceived or not being accepted properly, and then there's others who don't have these issues whatsoever, and you can...
Well, I would say in Nigeria, Nigeria is, I don't know how to put it, growing up in Nigeria, I just never had a problem as being half or mixed. Mm-hmm. It was when I came to Germany that I understood, okay, they don't see you as one of them. You're black in their eyes. Obviously, I was aware that I'm mixed. And then obviously I had my issues with, at the university with professors, not wanting to sign my dissertation because of my heritage and my background. And then, I had my experience with, racial or racism, yeah. And then having lived here for a certain period of time, that was one of the reasons that it, triggered my becoming more militant in my music also, becoming more pro-African, getting to learn more, learning more about my heritage, being proud of, myself as a Nigerian and as a mixed person who grew up outside Europe. And I understood, comparing myself to other mixed kids who grew up in Europe, that many mixed kids in Europe do have an issue with where they come from. They either hate Africa completely, or there's something going on there, and that has a lot to do with their experience over here, and of course in their families. And what their parents have taught them. So, that also contributed to one of the tracks that I recorded on the No Longer at Ease record, which is called Half Caste.
Oh, yeah.
I took a story of a girl who was born here and my own personal story and combined, the two. At the end of the day, you have to be proud, regardless of what anybody tells you. There was a time where I didn't want to have anything to, people would just approach me and they would think I'm a racist. I'm a Black Panther racist against white people. No, I did go through my own experience, yes, and I had to understand that obviously not everything that is white is immaculate, and not everything that is white is evil. And not everything that is black is awful, and not everything that is black is wonderful. So I had to find peace within myself. I moved back to Nigeria, and then I became more conscious of myself. Sometimes consciousness or wisdom leads to stupidity and creates problems for you. When you know too much,
knowing too much can be harmful.
Can be very harmful.
Yes, exactly.
So I became more aware of, I'm mixed. So you start running around the place. When somebody will now call you Oyibo, Bobo, what they used to call you before. You never had a problem with that back in the days. Why all of a sudden do you have a problem now? Okay. So I have decided, I now educate my fellow Nigerians when I'm in Nigeria, when they say, when you've spent some time outside Nigeria, you're all, our skin color fades.
Yeah.
You know that. So you're more whiter than, you look whiter than you are. So
Definitely, yes.
So you come back home and they treat you like a white person. But then when you open your mouth and you speak the language, then it's a whole different level.